testing testing Amitabha 测试声音 test 1 2 3 testing testing
Testing 1, 2, testing A, B, C, D. Okay. 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing 1, 2. Okay. Good. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. To the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened. Namo sadanto suchedoye alahdi sammya samputoshe. Wushang shen shen wei miao fa, bai qian wan jie nan sao yu. Wo jin jian wen de shou chi, yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Alrighty, Shifu Shangren, Gawei Shishung, Daja, Amitofo. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our sutra lecture tonight on the 5th day of our Amitabha Session, and we are looking into the practice of Pure Land recitation, this wonderful story of part of the Mahayana, our Chinese tradition. And to get underway, we want to respectfully acknowledge the Kombumerri people of the Ugambi language region as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where our monastery is located. We pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. So, 就是说我们恭敬地承认乌干贝语族的呼鲁玛丽人是我们寺院所在地的传统叙事和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从未放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。We will keep clicking through the Ohlone people, the Pomo people, to the bell song. The bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传三千劫内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报他脑后的。Okay. So we have friends who have gathered from literally all over the planet, all over the world, to come to be with us tonight here in the Gold Coast to celebrate a week of making the Buddha Amitabha's vows the focus of our energy and our attention for 7 days. And I've said before something that is kind of controversial when you first hear it, because it sounds like it's cheapening something. But in fact, as soon as you think about it, it's just true, which is all religions are stories. They're stories that somebody in authority told you when you were young, and you heard it, you adopted it, and it became truth for you. That's not to demean or to belittle or cheapen anything. That's just the way it is. When those stories conflict, we as humans have some of the worst bloodshed in our history. People fighting over the invisible, basically, because most of the stories proceed from invisible matters of faith. I believe it is so. Well, somebody else has a different belief. How can two contending beliefs coexist? So they go to war. Bloodshed over religion is some of the worst aspects of being human. So let's just put that to one side and look at our story tonight. Our story is just front and center a story, to the point where our Buddha, Shakyamuni, said to his disciples at that time, he said, "You all have not heard this. So I know you're not going to request this Dharma," as we just heard our Dharma request just now. Gong Qing Da Da, right? That's a Dharma request. Nobody requested the story of Amitabha because nobody knew it. But Shakyamuni Buddha, with his wisdom, consulted his what arose from what he could see in his nature and said, here's a really good story, and it involves you here in the Saha world at this time. You're connected because Amitabha directed his vows at you. So let me tell you, and he says, it is hard to believe, extremely difficult, he said. However, if you believe it, good news. It's a good story. So our Pure Land story is really a story. And whether or not we accept it, whether or not we put it into practice, it's up to us. So this week, we are giving an entire focus on a single Dharma door, single presence. And as I mentioned the first night when we started out, there are certain, if you look at religious practice in India, the word yoga became a popular word. And yoga means if you have a really strong animal, like a water buffalo, and that water buffalo is your family's treasure. It's a very valuable animal because it can help you plow wet ground. It's not afraid of the water, not like a tractor that gets mired in the mud. Water buffaloes go forward, but they're so strong. If you've ever seen a water buffalo, anybody? I don't know, we're city dwellers mostly, but either that or we don't live in a climate where we use water buffaloes. But I've seen water buffaloes in Taiwan, and they are so strong. They're huge creatures. And the farmer has to control it. So what does he do? He takes a big shaped piece of wood that has a collar underneath it and ways to fasten it, and they put it on the shoulders of this very strong animal, and he pulls on one end and the animal goes to the right, and he pulls on the other side and the animal goes to the left. And there's vocal commands, ji and ha, you go left, you go right. And of course, he has to have goodwill on the part of the water buffalo, otherwise he has to This is his friend, and his livelihood depends on this animal living a long time in peace and happiness. So that relationship is very important to the farmer. So what is it? It's a yoke. That's a yoke that you put in English. We say yoke. I don't know in Chinese, 牛什么东西, how do you translate yoke? 那个你放在那个水牛的身上那个东西. It's you get the analogy. The word yuj in Sanskrit is the root of the word that becomes yoga. Yoga is yoking, not a water buffalo, but what? Yoking our mind and body, which, if anything, is more stubborn than a water buffalo. So yoga is the science, the techniques, the methods of yoking, putting that collar over body and mind so that we get an appropriate, healthy, balanced, what do you say, cultivated shape and movement. That's what yoga does when it's hatha yoga, the exercise, the asanas, the downward facing dog, the salute to the sun, etc. So, but there's 6 in the list that we came up with. And of them, devotion, bhakti, B-H-A-K-T-I, bhakti yoga is devotion. Now, people say, oh yeah, that's yoga, that's Indian religion. Well, no, it's not. It's universal spiritual practice because in the West, we have our own praise traditions. Praise traditions. And what are praise traditions? They are Christianity. Let's just look at that one for sure. My very favorite part of being a Methodist when I was growing up was Christmas because of the hymns, Christmas carols. Christmas carols are praise. We praise. And in fact, there are people who will tell you that Christianity, as it's practiced largely in evangelical and fundamentalist and charismatic traditions, even in mainstream, mainline Protestant traditions, is a praise tradition. That's all it does. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. Praise him above all heavenly hosts. Praise Buddha, Son, and Holy Ghost. Guan Yin, right? So it is a praise tradition. Oh my goodness. And it's just from start to finish. Now you think, okay, well that's interesting, Dharma Master. Thank you for doing that. But we're Buddhists. Okay. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva says, I have 10 practices for you that will take you to Buddhahood, the second of which is called what? Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's second great vow is Cheng Zan Rulai, praise the thus come one, praise the Tathagatas. There you go, right there. That's it. That's it. That's a praise tradition. Buddhism is bhakti yoga. Why? Because some people like that. Some people prefer religious practice praising the Buddha, praising the thus come one. And they don't like meditation that much. They don't want to sit still. They want to get their heart open to praising how wonderful the Buddha is. And if you see the Buddha, they say pretty much you're moved to praise, like no doubt. Anybody who sees the Buddha who does not want to praise him is got a heart of stone, because the Buddha is very praiseworthy. People, you know, if who is the God that we praise in Christianity? Well, from the Buddhist point of view, that's Chakra, Chakra Devanam the God of the 33rd heaven. So we praise Bhakti Yoga. And this week, we are doing that. That's what we do. Now, as we have been bit by bit handing out some of these deeper ideas of Pure Land practice, there are two aspects of Nian Fo Faman. One of them is what we heard in the Avatamsaka Sutra about reciting for the end of life. You recite so that when our life comes to an end, we go to the Pure Land. And reborn in a lotus flower, Amitabha greets us. Yeah. However, there is another path that also involves reciting the Buddha's name. And it's interesting because it crosses out of praise into Raja Yoga, which is what? It says, recite until you ru nian for san mei. Recite until your mind gets to yi xin bulan. You become single-minded in your recitation, and at that point, it's just the same as Chan Samadhi. It's no different. And a lot of people get confused about that because, well, wait a minute, that's Chan, that's not pure. Yes, it is. So how do you make sense of it? It's that these practices are not exclusive. They overlap. They overlap. And a good cultivator has in his or her toolkit all of these different practices to bring out and to use so that the mind, the same single thing that is using all these methods, is able to get to single-mindedness. Shifu would say, Master Hua would say, it's just to get you to stop false thinking. And of course you go, whoa, what do you mean false thinking? Right. That's big topic. So that's Shifu's answer is very Chan, cutting right to it. Right? Don't worry about all the lawyer-like details. Oh, in there arguing, what about this, what about this, what about this, what about this? What if? No. Too much false thinking. Just cultivate. Keep reciting. Listen. Put your heart on Amitabha. Guan Xiang Nianfo. Look at an image of Amitabha. How wonderful. He's so compassionate, right? And you just contemplate. There's all these different methods that we hear about in order to get us to that place of yi xin bulan, single-minded, no confusion. That's the point. So if you're confused at this point, that's because this is a lot to take in. It sounds contradictory, it's not. You can practice devotion with the idea that at the end of life, Amitabha is going to come and take you. And I think most people do that. And we have many stories of people who have successfully, at the end of life, gone to rebirth with a smile on their face, with a wonderful fragrance in the room. The most dramatic one of those, I think you probably all heard me tell this story, but when I was still in my coursework for my doctorate in Berkeley, I lived down at what we call ITI, International Translation Institute. This was 1992, 93. And Master Hua was living in his apartment, it was upstairs, and we were downstairs. And Shifu was training me to take on, he was preparing me for my future. And he said, okay, ordinarily I would be lecturing on the weekend, you take it now. He said, you cover the weekends. So Sunday noon was my lecture. Actually, it was in the mornings. And at this time, Gold Sage Monastery in San Jose had not been established yet. So every Sunday morning, there would be a huge crowd driving up from Sunnyvale and Cupertino and San Jose and Palo Alto, driving up to Burlingame where we were. And we'd go to the second floor and I would set aside my coursework for my PhD and pick up today's lecture. I think I lectured the Medicine Buddha Sutra. I lectured on the Universal Door chapter. I explained the Amitabha Sutra. And during the Amitabha Sutra series, of course, when you do a lecture, you go through the text, and then it's really important to have a couple good stories, because the stories, people wait for them like dessert after the meal. You're willing to hear the principles of the text, but you're waiting for a good story because you can relate to the story. So I would always do research and get a couple good stories from my experience, 3 Steps One Bow, or Shifu's life stories, or something. And on this one particular Sunday morning, I had heavy coursework and I didn't get my story. And so after lecturing on that section of text, I thought, okay, just tell the truth, let people know. And so I said, you know what, today I didn't get a story together for everybody. And because this is Amitabha's teaching, is there anybody who has a after rebirth story they could share from your own experience? And I'm looking out, and I know most of the people in the audience. I know their families, I know their stories, because they come week after week after week. But they are about 90% Taiwanese or Chinese or Hong Kong or Singapore, Malaysia. And these are folks who don't speak up. The Chinese culture is such that in public, you don't venture an opinion until you're sure whether you're correct, or if you're the person in your family who should speak. If you're from the Wang clan, and over here is an elder, you don't speak before the elder speaks, and you need permission from the elder. That would be rude, you know. And if you're a woman, you don't speak before your husband speaks, and so you need, you know. So there's all kinds. This is traditional, the way it's done in public. Now, the next generation, of course, is different now, but back then, that's how it was done. So I fully expected everybody to do what they always do, which is say, anybody got a story? And everyone goes, don't call on me, I'm okay. Ask him. That's not what happened. It's not what happened. People put their hand, I have a story, I got a story, call on me. 3 hands went up around the room. And I said, Wang Hongyi, ni 怎么一回事呢? And Wang Hongyi, who was CEO of a high-tech startup, because this is Silicon Valley. I'm lecturing in, Burlingame is right there, the gateway to Silicon Valley. And Wang Hongyi says, yeah. He said, here with Hu Dawen over here, the 2 of us live in the same condo. And there was old Mrs. Lee who lived downstairs. Her apartment was her condo was by the parking lot, the gateway to the parking lot. And she was an elderly Chinese woman, and she lived by herself. And we always wave to her. We'd see her when we take the garbage out or coming in from work or something. And when we walked by her place, we could always hear her wooden fish. She would be reciting something Buddhist in her apartment. We figured it was the Buddhist name or a sutra or something. But we just wave at her and kind of knew she was there. And she was part of the community, but nobody ever talked to her very much. And then he said, 2 weeks ago, I said to Darwin, I said, hey, we haven't heard Mrs. Lee's wooden fish for a while. Did you notice? He said, yeah, come to think of it, I did kind of notice. What do you suppose? Maybe we should go check her out. So we did. And we went down and we were going to knock on the door, but we realized it was open. So we opened the door and went in, and there was this amazing fragrance that we'd never smelled before. And we're looking at each other, and we go into the bedroom, and here she was sitting in Buddhist robes with her legs crossed on the bed, stone cold dead, with a smile on her face. And we were like, oh, is this what we think it is? And of course, there was all of the inquiry that she had died. There was no sense of foul play. She had gone off to rebirth with a smile on her face, wearing Buddhist robes, sitting in full lotus on her bed. And nobody knew. And we both figured, yeah, she knew her time was coming and went off to see Amitabha. So Wang Hui told the story. Everybody in the room goes, So here is another, and then around the room, the other hands said, oh yeah, well, my grandpa in Taiwan knew her neighbor, blah, 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 And a number of people in the room had stories of people who had recited the Buddha's name and gone off to rebirth. In the 20th, at that time it was the 20th century, 21st century is too, it's still happening. So science has a hard time explaining this, but religion does not. This is called the 3 requisites of going to the Pure Land are xin, believing that is true, yuan, making a vow to go to the Pure Land, xing, practicing, going there, reciting the Buddha's name. But how many methods are there that are considered Jingdu Famen, Pure Land Dharma methods? Well, the most common is reciting Namo Amitabha. And we had a monk called Heng Nang Shi. Heng Nang Shi never let his beads out of his hands. And he had 2 strands of 108 beads. Most people have 108 if you're monk style. And he had 208, and he kept them going all the time. I mean, he was just always going like this, and you know that he was keeping track in his mind as he was counting with his beads. So that's one, you just never stop. Master Qingliang, Master Chengguan, our Avatamsaka patriarch, had one of his vows was, 手不失圆明之珠, my hands will never let go of my bright beads. That was one of his practices, that he always kept going. He always recited with his beads. And so that's one. But how many of you, we're using our phones, we're driving a car, we're ordering coffee, how do we keep our beads in our hands? So if we can recite the Buddha's name 10 times a day in a single breath, so you go, inhale, Namo Amitabha, 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 Namo Amitabha. 10 times. If you can do that, that's enough to get you into a lotus at the end of your life. So there's all these different ways to xin, yuan, xing, to believe that the story is true, that it's happening now in the 21st century, to make a vow, say, I want to go there. Just like we do our great transference, or Da Hui Xiang, after this lecture. And in the great transference, you say, Yan Sheng Jing Du, Qiu Sheng Jing Du, Amitabha, right? I want to go to the Pure Land, Amitabha. So, and then Xing, you go and do it. So this is it. That's it. It's really, really easy to understand the method. However, this is where the rub, where the glitch, the hiccup comes in, which is what? We outsmart ourselves. We are too smart for our own good. We come up with all kinds of excuses or reasons, or just out and out bad karma and so we don't recite. Proof of that is the story from Jinshan Huofo. Everybody knows the story of Jinshan Huofo. This is one of our best source of stories for the 20th century. Jinshan Huofo, the living Buddha of Gold Mountain. He's a contemporary of Master Empty Cloud. He was in Hong Kong and southern China and traveled around. And he was an extraordinary monk. He is probably an arhat or maybe a bodhisattva. He had all kinds of weird stuff. Like he never allowed people to waste paper. He was one of that generation of Chinese who thought paper was sacred. So whenever he saw a piece of paper that could have been rescued and used for something, he would grab it and eat it. He ate newspaper, he ate napkins, he was gross and unsanitary, but he wanted people to cherish paper. 爱惜 废纸, So that was Master Jinshan Huofo. There's a wonderful book called Jinshan Huofo Zhuan, the story of great master, the living Buddha of Gold Mountain. And he's famous. You can find it online. Go look for it tonight. It's a PDF out there. Wonderful stories. So one of the reasons why people love his stories is because the monk who collected his stories was a really good storyteller, 乐国法师, and he was his book is really well written. He's got a great prose style. So anyway, one day, Dharma Master Le Guo said to Jinshan Huofo, he said, Huofo, this method sounds so easy. It sounds so easy. You just recite the Buddha's name and you go to the Pure Land and suffering ends. Why don't more people do it? How come the Pure Land isn't just crammed with souls? And he said, it seems too easy to me, too cheap. There's got to be more to it than that. And the living Buddha of Gold Mountain says, you don't appreciate the situation of living beings. He said, living beings are really heavily obstructed and suffering with affliction. He said, sounds easy? It's not easy. So Dharma Master Le Guo said, oh, come on. He said, really, come on. So living Buddha said, all right, reaches in his pocket and he picks out a 5-pound note, Hong Kong money. He says, here. He says, take this. He says, go out in the street. I'll go with you. And give this 5-pound note to anybody who can recite the Buddha's name. The Master Le Guo says, wow, you got money to burn, huh? That money's that's going to disappear in a hurry. So he goes out and he sees somebody walking by and he goes, hey, Lao Jia. He says, if you will recite Namo Amitabha, I'll give you this 5-pound note. And the person goes, what's that? He says, I wouldn't recite that piece of crap, basically. So Master said, oh, okay. And he goes, sir, he says, I would give you this 5-pound note if you'll recite Namo Amitabha. And the person looks at him and says, praise Jesus. He says, oh, okay, well, madam, he says, this is 5 pounds. He said, I'll give you this if you can recite Namo Amitabha. And the person looks at him and goes, Namo, what was the second part? Amitabha. Oh, Amitabha. What was the first part again? And that's okay. That's all right. He says, okay. And another priest, hey, here, 5 pounds. Will you recite Namo Amitabha? And the person goes, a mute, no tongue. So he drags his tail back in and he goes, wow, living beings are really obstructed. This is not so easy, is it? Yeah, it's true. So we who don't disrespect Amitabha, we who are not believers in other faiths, we who have reasonable intelligence, and we who have the facility of speech, we should recognize that reciting the name of Amitabha is really a good way to go. Don't waste the opportunity. If we can, we should. And it is a praise tradition and really worth it. Okay, question yesterday. So-and-so and I were wondering, do beings stay in their lotus in the Pure Land until they're almost Buddhas and go through all the Bodhisattva stages in the Pure Land? So, a good question from somebody who has been listening to like the 10 stages chapter, the 10 grounds. The answer is everybody's different. Everybody's different. By the way, if there are other questions to ask, go ahead and put them in the chat. Some do, some don't. Some come out immediately. If you are reborn into the top grade of the top kind of lotus, you can come out immediately because your karma is essentially purified. Other beings stay in the lotus until their karma is purified, but everyone who comes out has to go through the training to get ready because they're going to different worlds where they will be teaching living beings in those worlds. So the answer is yes, maybe. Okay. Another question. 时刻提醒自己，一切都是考验，应该放下一切，不要被境界所转。这样就是梵文文字性吗？ No, that's not. 梵文文字性. So the question is, I always telling myself, everything's a test. Put down everything. Don't be turned by states. Is this returning the hearing to listen to the self-nature? No, that's not it. 梵文文字性, turning the hearing back to listen to the self-nature is a specific method given by Guanyin Bodhisattva in the Shurangama Sutra. If you go to the Shurangama Sutra, go to chapter 6, the 25 sages, you will find Guanyin Pusa's Argan Yuan Tong method, the ear organ perfection. And it goes step by step by step. It is not for beginners. Every time I try to follow it, I can go to step 1 or 2, and then it goes into samadhi. But it does point out all the way to Buddhahood. Not so easy. But I encourage you to do it. Do take a look, but this is not it. Okay, let's see here. 清教恒师法师由外道。任我的耳朵总是有大的声音，在我念经的咒时，耳朵里的声音也很大，这时我该怎么办？感谢你，请问中文。Okay. To say that, okay, she says, or he says, there is a non-Buddhist religion who is sending noise to this person's ears. I'm trying to recite sutras and mantras, and the noise by my ears is really loud. What should I do? Thank you. Please answer in Chinese. I have a translator who is happy to answer in Chinese for me, so I'll answer in English. I doubt this is true. I don't think that is the case, that someone from a non-Buddhist religion is that concerned about you, that they are trying to keep you from reciting. I don't think that's true. You're making yourself too important. by assuming that, I think it's much more likely that you have a physical imbalance somewhere in your system. Tinnitus is an actual state. Tinnitus, it's a medical state, and our translator is a doctor who probably knows more about tinnitus, is that how you say it? Which is a ringing in the ears, which is a physical imbalance. And it is something that we people do, which is things going on inside us, we project them outside. And we look for someone to blame, we look for a scapegoat. The thing is, there are so many people in the world that once we assume that somebody out there is trying to get us, it's endless. When will you ever find the answer and get that person to stop? You're looking in the wrong place. What I would recommend is go get a medical checkup. Find a doctor who you can communicate to and say, you're hearing loud sounds. Could the doctor do a nutritional checkup? Make sure you're eating everything that you should eat in a balanced diet. Make sure you're sleeping enough. I would start there. And chances are, once you have enough nutrition in your diet, enough vitamins, minerals, and apple pies, and once you get enough sleep, you may discover that that situation takes care of itself. Certainly to look for a scapegoat, to think that someone is trying to keep you from reciting, it has nothing to do with Buddhism. This has zero to do with mantras. Cultivation is not to fight. And to assume that there is a non-Buddhist religion fighting with you indicates to me that you in your mind are fighting. And that cannot be the right Dharma. You'll never get to samadhi if you're looking for you're a victim and you're looking for someone to subdue so that you can recite your mantra. You're looking in the wrong direction. So calm your mind, get medical checkup, and see if you can't find a way to focus on your own well-being. One way to make sure that you will feel better is to simply stop fighting with the Dharma. That's using Buddhism in the wrong way. That's a mistake. And you will certainly, if you continue with that, you will, the more you pursue trying to find somebody who's harming you with religion, the farther you're going to go away from where you want to be. So stop fighting, look within, be kind to yourself, and recognize what Buddhism is about. Buddha Dharma is there to help us to find harmony, peace of mind, to untie affliction, to finally, once we ourselves get free from affliction, to benefit others. Much less should we be out there fighting with a Waidao. Okay. Are there two ways of attaining rebirth in the Pure Land? More than two, many. Amitabha comes to get you at your deathbed, or do you have to go through King Yama? So as the Samantabhadra's Practices and Vows tells us, we go directly from, it's an instant, we go from our deathbed to the Pure Land. However, that story, the story sketched in the sutra is for somebody whose good roots, whose samadhi is pretty good. They have to have recited enough that their connection, their passport to the Pure Land is already stamped. Their ticket for the Pure Land is already purchased. If we only recite every now and then and forget about it mostly, then definitely we'll go see King Yama. But if we have a connection with the Pure Land, King Yama may say, you're going to the Pure Land. So you've sketched out two possibilities here, and maybe neither one. Amitabha may not come to greet you because your connection with the Pure Land is, you still have a lot of doubts. You don't really believe. For sure, if you believe it is the case, if you make a vow to go there, you set your will on the Pure Land, and then recite like you mean it, number one will happen. I think most of us are probably somewhere in between. So maybe we go to King Yama's realm and argue our case. Say, I really should go to the Pure Land. Please send me to the Pure Land. I like Amitabha. King Yama says, yeah, me too. I want to go there too at some point. 共庆师法师，我身边的一些人出现这种状况，一心念阿弥陀佛，于是观世音菩萨不供奉了，地藏王菩萨也供奉，就转供养供奉阿弥陀佛，转念阿弥陀佛。请问师法师，这种情况就叫一门精进吗？不是。也是。Okay, the person says, Dharma Master, sure. 我身边一些人出现 some people around me have gotten to this, have created this situation. They recite Amitabha with a single mind, and at that point, they stop making offerings to Guanyin Bodhisattva. They still recite to Earth-store Bodhisattva, and I think they meant Bu Gongyang. I think they left out. So they stopped reciting, they stopped offering to Guanyin and to Earth-store. They only recite and make offerings to, they only make offerings to Amitabha. Is this what you mean by Yimen Jingjin? Actually, we say Yimen Shenru, right? It's not Yimen Jingjin. Is this what you mean by single-mindedly entering a single doorway? No, or yes. Why do I say it that way? Cultivation is voluntary. It's voluntary. You cultivate a method because why? Because you like it. Because you enjoy it. It makes you happy to do it that way. And the more you do it, the happier you get. And you believe that the method you're using is correct. You put your heart into it. It's not like shopping, where you go out and you buy a product and then you try it for a while, and if you're not happy, you return it for a refund. It's not like that. And it's not like a lawyer arguing, you know. Cultivation should be something that the more you do it, the more it feels like part of your life. Like, for example, exercise. People who exercise, who really get to the point where the endorphins kick in. Maybe you're jogging, maybe you go to the gym, maybe you belong to a cricket club or a soccer club, or you swim or you surf. A lot of people surf, and just when you don't, you feel bad. You feel like you've left something important behind. That's cultivation, when it starts to work for you. It's as important as eating, as important as dressing. It's just something that is part of your life and maybe the most important part. Because when you do it, you feel like you're home. There's no confusion, there's no affliction, no fighting, right? No greed. So that's when cultivation is really working. And you decide which one it is. As I've said before, my colleague, the former Bhikshu Heng Chao, he got a method of meditation from our teacher, Master Shenhua, and he used that now for 30 years, undeviating. That's what he likes to do. I cultivated a variety of practices then, and I still do. I came up with a list of 10 things that I was doing at once, and including memorizing sutras and reciting mantras and 108 great compassion, et cetera, et cetera. And when I told my colleague what I was doing, he said, "You're nuts. You're just false thinking. How can you possibly get this?" And I said, "Yeah, but look at my hand." I showed him the palm of my hand, and I have multiple lines on my hand. Everything is double and triple. I'm a translator, and so I can, 我可以就一下就转不同的语言、不同的表情。Alors, je peux changer un autre langue comme ça. C'est très facile pour moi. And it's like, okay, so that's just the way I'm wired. He is not a linguist. He's a martial artist. He's got strong eyes. You know, he's got 1, 2, 3 lines in his hand. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different. So if you, back to your case, if you would like to recite Amitabha's name and make offerings to Amitabha, absolutely go ahead and do it. Guanyin Bodhisattva is not going to be upset with you. Earth Store Bodhisattva is not going to be angry if you stop making offerings. You simply won't have those affinities with those bodhisattvas. The fact that Master Xuan Hua gave us Pure Land practice, Chan practice, mantra practice, Vinaya practice, and explained sutras, he packed our suitcases full of Dharma treasures. Because why? He was the pioneer who brought Buddhism to the West. He was setting up conditions for Buddhism to expand out into the future. That was what he wanted to do. And he was hoping that different people would take different pieces of the practices and let them spread. Buddhism in China was there for 2,000 years, so you had all these different schools. So, okay, there we go. Let's see if we've got quickly here. Okay, we may have to, let's see. Oh, somebody says, could we hear I'll never stop reciting? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to save these questions for tomorrow. Thank you for asking. Karina wanted to hear. Here we go. I was, in fact, hoping somebody would ask. So, I'll never stop reciting. Where is it? Let's see here. Check up song sheets. Okay, let's see here. Pages, Scrivener. Okay, maybe try that one. Let's see if that comes up. Coming right up. Oh, chicken, oh, chicken. No, that's not the one. Never stop reciting. Hold on here. These are all songs. All of which have there it is right there. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. A Buddha named the eternal light made vows to save creation, made a land where suffering's gone, place of liberation. So use his vows and be reborn. Lotus flowers delighting. Simply keep his name in mind. Never stop reciting. The Saha land's a place of pain, with struggle and contention. To find a world of utmost bliss, you first set your intention. Those men or women rich or poor, rebirth not delighting, apply themselves with a single mind. Never stop reciting. I praise the Buddha's compassionate vows, with melodies unending. My body lives in the world of woe. My heart is world transcending. With bodhisattvas joyfully, I'll soon be reuniting. Till I reach Amitabha's land, I'll never stop reciting. Till I reach Amitabha's land, never stop reciting. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha. Let's hear it. Can we try it? Here we go. Namo Amitabha Buddha, 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 Namo Amitabha, 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 Namo Amitabha. One more. Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha. I'll never stop reciting. All righty. Thank you for asking, Karina. I appreciate that. More questions tomorrow night. Ooh, we got a bunch of good questions here. I will save them and bring them back tomorrow with your name removed so people don't know. You can do it anonymously. Please get a lot of rest for tomorrow's recitation, and you can join in. People know if you hit that QR code with your cell phone, it will take you to the Zoom link. If you copy that number down there with your phone, You can find it 8:30 to 10 Australia time, Eastern time, then 1:30 to 3, and then our lecture again tomorrow night. Following the lecture tonight, there is a great transference. Please check it out. And we'll dedicate merit now. And if you don't have anybody in mind who could use the merit, please dedicate it to the million plus people who are suddenly homeless. Imagine having 1 million people with nowhere to go to the bathroom, no hospitals for them, no roads, no cars, no gas, no electricity, no water, no food, and disease. That's Palestine right now, that's Gaza. And seems to be no let up. So let's recite, just dedicate our merit with the wish that people come to their senses and stop hating each other. But dedicate wherever you choose, that's where I'm dedicating merit. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. And we will conclude the night with bowing to the Buddha. Welcome to join. Okay, first bow. Second bow. And third bow. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. All right. Deep appreciation to all the volunteers who helped get this lecture underway. We appreciate it. Amitabha, everyone. See you all tomorrow night. Amitabha. Bye now.
请翻开149页 ，Please turn to page 149。弟子中等，现世生死反复，罪障深重，轮回六道，苦不可言，尽于自是，得闻弥陀名号，本愿功德，一心成念，求愿往生，愿佛慈悲不胜，爱怜摄受，弟子中等，不是佛身，相好光明，愿佛实现，令我得见，即见观音世子，诸菩萨众，必是界中，清净庄严，光明妙相更，令我了了得见阿弥陀佛。南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无观世音菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，
南无大势至菩萨，
南无大势至菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，南无大势至菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南 么清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨。南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨，南无清净大海中菩萨。南无清净大海中菩萨。愿我临终无障碍，阿弥陀佛愿相应，观音甘露萨无头狮子金台安我住，一刹那中离无着，去身悲情到莲池，莲花开后见此尊亲，听法音可了了，闻一即无生人不为安养如所迫，善知方便度众生，巧把尘劳为佛事，我愿如是佛子子，毕竟当来得成就。一心定力，弘扬经乐度，释迦如来千百亿化身，遍法界诸佛。一心定力，常寂光净土，阿弥陀如来清净妙法身，遍法界诸佛。一心定力，十宝庄严度，阿弥陀如来微尘相海身，遍法界诸佛。一心定力，方便胜具足，阿弥陀如来解脱相延伸，遍法界诸佛。一心定力，西方安乐度， 阿弥陀如来，大乘根结深，遍法界诸佛。一心定力，西方安乐度。阿弥陀如来，十方华旺盛，遍法界诸佛。一心定力，西方安乐度。教恒力三经，记忆正宣扬，遍法界尊法。一心定力，西方安乐度。观世音菩萨，还一之精神，遍法界菩萨摩诃萨。一心定力，西方安乐度。大势至菩萨，无边光之身，遍法界菩萨摩诃萨。一心定力，西方安乐度。清净大海中，满分而延伸，遍法界生中。南无西方极乐世界，大慈大悲大愿大力，接引导师阿弥陀佛。南无西方极乐世界，大慈大悲大愿大力，接引导师阿弥陀佛。南无西方极乐世界，大慈大悲大愿大力，接引导师阿弥陀佛。南无西方极乐世界，万亿之精神，观世音菩萨摩诃萨。南无西方极乐世界，万亿之精神，观世音菩萨摩诃萨。南无西方极乐世界，万亿之精神，观世音菩萨摩诃萨。 南无西方极乐世界无边光自身大势至菩萨摩诃萨。南无西方极乐世界无边光之身大势至菩萨摩诃萨。南无西方极乐世界无边光之身大势至菩萨摩诃萨。南无西方极乐世界满本而言身清净大海中菩萨摩诃萨。南无西方极乐世界满本而言身清净大海中菩萨摩诃萨。南无西方极乐世界满本而言身清净大海中菩萨摩诃萨。皈依佛，当愿众生体解大法无上心。皈依佛，当愿众生深入经藏，智慧如海。皈依僧，当愿众生脱离大众一切无碍。很难生中，个人代为父母师长激励结愿亲礼薄参拜，现在者政福延寿，过去者求生净土。阿弥陀佛。 求生净土，阿弥陀佛。求生净土，阿弥陀佛。顶礼老和尚，学人一光明，一随见，如烧水鱼色有了大众当亲亲亲如酒头然大念无障碍，身无妨碍，阿弥陀佛。南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀